As a scientist, we want to be able to respond to community concerns when a community is dependent on ecological resources like Apalachicola Bay. There's a huge economic impact when resources are limited. We are able to do community-based science that involves community members. It involves council people. It involves seafood workers. It involves advisory committees, and being able to utilize the brilliance and the expertise and the experience of the seafood workers who know that resource historically is what allows us to work with them as partners to do community-based science and answer some of these questions. The big boon for that is that when we can come back and report the data back to the community and to the seafood workers, the level of trust that that data brings based on the fact that it wasn't just the guy in the lab coat, it's a team of people, including seafood workers from the community, who have helped to generate those data. And therefore, there's a higher level of engagement. And with that comes resource training. It's an opportunity for seafood workers to learn about how science works, how science gets applied to things that they care about. And so it's a real opportunity to learn from each other. And that actually is some of the most valuable and, for me, exciting aspects of some of this work. Perception is everything. So the ability to communicate to different audiences and understand what they need to hear rather than what our data might want us to say is critical. So that means that when we have data that we need to share with our community partners, or in this case with seafood workers, we need to be able to work with a group of them and develop our messaging so that it's meaningful to that audience. And I couldn't think of a more poignant example of talking about whether it's whether or not to close a fishery. When you work in a fishery, it's a make or break. It's like farming. So if you close a resource, the economic impacts are remarkable. So you need to only do that if it's really dire, if that's the only resort. So you need to be able to talk about it thinking from their perspective. If you want to talk about the health of oysters, every waterman there knows that oysters can carry Vibrios. So I think part of the benefits of our presence working with this community long term is that a portion of the community appreciates our input and sees us as a resource. And in that regard, I think we can provide some level of empowerment and understanding different ways that at times they already know what they are, but ways that they can be better stewards of their environment from another perspective. And so I think that there is benefit to sharing information about better ways to cull oysters, better ways to be tonging and that are less disruptive. And for a portion of the seafood workers there, it's not new information, but it reinforces the importance of it, and I think it's meaningful.